Full screen. Okay. I'm hot.
We are fully present, coming forward.
Awesome. So, Joseph, the meditation, extraordinary abundance, is pretty powerful because you say in that meditation that just by nature of thinking it, it's real, or I'm sure I'm not capturing it quite the way you do, but that that's there. It's there.
The idea has everything necessary for its maturation. Like a seed, the seed has all of the components in it. The idea that is inspired to you has in that grain, in that little morsel, everything necessary to bring it into fruition. But like the seed, you have to give it the proper environment. So the meditation is there to help you get into that relaxed and receptive state so that not only can you receive the morsel, the germ, but you can also relax into it and allow it to start to mature and mature and mature until it comes into full fruition. And part of that coming into full fruition is you having the inspiration, having more details, having more specifics in your mind. Part of it is also that as that process is maturing, your physical reality is bringing all of those opportunities to you. And part of it is you taking action upon the inspiration that's coming and bridging the gap and completing the circuit. And so that is why you can revisit a meditation like this many, many times, because each time you're adding more detail, you're adding more information, you're adding more specificity to that initial idea, so it is allowed to continue to grow and to mature. And it's an ongoing process because the inspiration could be something as simple as going to get a haircut. It could be something as complex as beginning all sorts of actions and so forth. But what's most important from that process and from this entire process that we're describing is that you are able to receive your next step and then you take the action upon it.
Yeah. So receiving the next step as part of the process, as you say, can be, oh, I feel like going to write something. I have an idea about, I have an idea about um, a business. I have an idea about a story. I have an idea about, you know, a garden I want to plant. It's just those I following through on those ideas.
They're all
And
connected as well because it's all on that same energy. It's all in that same energetic state, if you would, that you achieve through the meditation. You can achieve it many, many other ways as well, but they'll all tie into each other. And it's not your job to figure out how it's all going to come together. Your job is to follow the inspiration. Your job is to get into the receptive place where you're receiving the inspiration and then to take action upon it. Not to say, oh, that's a nice idea, but what can I really do? It is to accept that all of the components that are revealed to you are part of your process.
yeah, there we go.
And they're all connected through that energy. And so when you start to take action upon one idea, you will see how it benefits and ties into all others.
Okay. Yeah. So the thought that I had is about the connection, the fact that extraordinary abundance isn't a narrow path. It's extraordinary. It's a very wide open path. It may mean something in a particular moment to me and be an inspiration for me, but that can be, the feeling of abundance that I get from cooking a meal, or the feeling of abundance that I get from walking my dog or cleaning my dog, or just, you know, being in my home. It's like there's this connection of moments, if you will, in the day, or however it appears to me. in time. um, and it's almost a state of being, I
It
guess is
is
what I'm
very
saying.
much so.
Okay.
As we teach that process of taking the paper and putting the main idea and having all of the other subsidiary ideas branching out and so on and so forth, the core is that energy that you choose. Well, the same is true, for instance, in this meditation where you're tuning into that energy, and from that, you're branching into all of these different possibilities that you can explore. And as you explore one aspect of it, it branches out further, and that branches out further. And it's all connected through that core energy, and the same is true of all of the moments of your day. So that's why we recommend doing this earlier in the day, is that you find that center point, and then from that, all of the moments of your day sort of branch out from that centralized energy that you've chosen.
Yeah. Yeah. So I think that I've learned that this consciousness, this conscious awareness of the energy, and we call it extraordinary abundance in this case, is the energy expressing itself in this kind of, I want to say, magnificent, brilliant, um, could be beauty, it could be finances, it could be just um, nature. I mean, abundance isn't limited to just the financial aspect, the financial side. Yeah. So,
Very much so. And in fact, at the core level, it is energetic. It is an abundance of energy. It is an abundance of new ideas that you allow the process to continue to grow. And then if you think of all of these ideas as having energy, when they mix and merge, they combust, and that takes you further. There is more energy, there is more energy, there is more energy. And when you can become all right, or
mhm,
even enjoy that process happening
mhm,
within, then
mhm,
you will and must see it shown back to you in physical reality.
yeah. The one thing I noticed is the lack of resistance that I have in the. I mean, I've only listened to it once, but there was this real sense of just kind of being with that idea, with that energy, with that concept, with that flow in the meditation. And I think what you're saying is that that carries over into the day, into the experience, into the perspective or perceptions that I have throughout the day in what I'm doing. And the inspiration, um, as I move through my day doing various different things, can reflect that same energy, will reflect that same, does reflect that same energy, even if it's a mundane task, is what I've noticed, what I would consider mundane. It's like there's something there that's extraordinarily abundant, in that
Indeed.
task. Yeah.
It's the essence of the energy that you're choosing, and it's going to lead you down all sorts of different paths. But many times you sort of have this idea of what abundance is supposed to look like and how it's supposed to play out. And we say that's fine and wonderful, but don't make your state of being dependent upon that physical manifestation,
Hmm.
because
Hmm.
then you're stuck in that loop and it cannot come forward.
Hmm. It's sort of the difference between what I think I want and what I truly want, It's sort of, there's kind of a fine line there because sometimes I think I want the manifestation, and I know there's nothing wrong with that, wanting that manifestation, but when the manifestation becomes the object of everything that I sort of, the energy that I put forward, then I'm not really living through what I really want, which is peace of mind, which is flow, which is feeling good, which is, the I mean, if I can do that thing, that manifestation thing in that flow and in that love and in that, peace of mind, then great. That's the energy, I think. So I just noticed that little distinction. Like sometimes what I think I want isn't really what I want. And when I allow the energy to come forward, it is what I want. Like, because there's just this like feeling of balance or harmony or
Many times when you're trying to create the images in your head, you're applying all sorts of conditions to it, which many times are not what you want to experience from that broader non-physical understanding.
Yeah.
You may put limitations on it, you may put resistance into it, you may spin it in all sorts of ways. And the way that you can tell what you're doing is by the feeling of that energy. If it feels like striving, if it feels like overcoming, if it feels like anything that has that little bit of proving yourself, even
Mm.
in your thoughts, you may think that this is exactly how you want things to play out, and you cling to that and cling to it and cling to it and cling to it. But the inner energy has a much broader, more enjoyable process for you to go through. And so you have to, again, prioritize that, because if you're holding on to the image, yes, it will come about, but you may have not a very enjoyable time
Hmm.
throughout that process. And just pay attention to the feeling. So as we like to say here, we're not big proponents of taking an idea of what you think should happen and clinging to that above all else. Rather, we say using something like this meditation or whatnot to get into that receptive state so the energy is flowing. And from that state, the new idea will reveal itself to you. And that idea is free of any conceptions or beliefs or projections that may cloud its clarity. Instead, it's a pure inspiration that comes from that clear state of being. And then when you put your focus on it, then when you put your emphasis upon it, then when you take action upon it, then when you move forward with it, everything that comes from it is a clear and pure expression of that inner energy. And it's just a great time for you.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, it also brought up like a question: is it possible to live without suffering?
Yes.
Okay.
And this process is tilting the scale. Many times as you're shifting and coming into this connection with the energy, suffering still comes about because it's a sort of residual effect of your previous beliefs and approaches.
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
as you tilt the scale, the suffering fades and fades and fades and fades.
Okay. And in that transformation, if you will, from a life through lived with a belief that we suffer, um, into a life lived that feels free and um, joyful most of the time, I would say, maybe. In that transformation process, the energy is supporting us, is showing us, is guiding us. I mean, is everyone sort of being guided in that direction as we connect more and more and more with this energy? It's kind of an inevitable evolution.
Very much so. We
Okay.
just want you to benefit from it while in the physical body.
Yeah. Yeah. Right. Because it can happen when we die. I mean, we just go there anyway, right? Yeah.
And you're moving through that process that you are able to experience here and now.
Yeah. And the purpose for us to experience it here and now would be as way showers for others, or to carry the energy for, um, I mean, no, for our own joy and our own.
Very much so.
Yeah.
And that is the primary function. Everything else comes as an expression of it. But that personal connection, again, has to be at the forefront, has to be your priority. And everything else will come as an expression of that. Very
Mhm.
much so.
Okay. Okay.
And we do want to touch on suffering just briefly as well, because you're still throughout this process going to run into things that are not as you enjoy them, not as you like them, not as you prefer them to be. And the touching upon it, the awareness of it. Now, we do not define that as suffering, but it is the clinging to that, it is the pushing against it, it is the focusing upon it, it is the obsessing over it that then develops into suffering. And then it continues to manifest and become more physically real to you until you look around yourself and say, how did I get here? Why am I suffering? And we say it was just a preference. It was just an idea that you had that you then put too much energy to, put too much emphasis upon, focused upon way too much, and then it matured into physical reality. And the same is true of these fleeting inspirations that you're receiving, that you can make the choice to focus in that different way as well.
And suffering, um, we could move through that moment of uncomfortable or discomfort or something that we don't like. We could move through that moment quicker or more easily if we weren't clinging to it, as you say, if we weren't so obsessed with it. Like, oh
It
my God.
happens to you many times throughout the day where you'll be walking down the street, for instance, and you see someone living a life that you may strongly disagree with, or you may see some condition that is very much not what you would like to have for yourself or even for others. And you see it and you move on and you may not think about it again. And the
Mhm,
same is true with all things. And now that is when people have the resistance deep down that prevents them from really being able to experience that full connection to the energy, which is, but aren't I abandoning them? Aren't I not being of service? Aren't I not contributing or
mhm.
being of value to them by doing that? And that is why we come forth to remind you that if you're clinging to these visions or perceptions of how things are and how they will continue to be, you put up within yourself an energy that does not allow you to receive the solution, the clear
Right,
next step.
right. In fact, I'm creating more of the energy of pain and suffering and
And so when you say that you want to be of service, we
mhm,
say, well, what's the approach that you're moving forward from? Because if you're receiving the new idea and it's blossoming and growing and empowering you and filling you with energy, and then you say, one of the many ideas that are occurring to me is that I want to put this out there for those who are searching for it so that they'll be able to access it, and I want to do it for free so everyone can access it. And we say that is a pure inspiration. Or are you noticing what's going wrong and saying, I'm going to fight my way to the top and change things, and
mhm, mhm.
then they'll know once I reveal the truth, and I'm really going to struggle my way there because it is so noble for me to do so. You see how the both could be seen as being of service, but they're energetically two extremely different approaches. One is going to make you sick, tired, and miserable and disappointed as you see that your action isn't really having any positive effect. The other one will empower you, make you feel wonderful, energize you, allow you to attract your own abundance, and you'll also be of long lasting and tremendous benefit to others as well.
Yeah, I totally hear what you're saying, and that was a good analogy. I wanted to, I want to go deeper with this, but one thing that came up is last week or maybe the week before, I mentioned to you this dizziness that I was having that was happening when I put my head down on the pillow, and you gave me this advice that was, relax into it, just prop your head up, relax into it, and I did that, and um, just the mere sort of intention to relax and just allow and not try to figure it out, it totally disappeared. And I'm not saying that, it was supposed to disappear, and nothing about it, but what it taught me, what it showed me was that relaxing into situations that may be uncomfortable sometimes isn't a bad thing. It's about because I may not know everything about that situation. I may not really understand what it's for. I may not totally, you know, I may have ascribed something to it that, the medical,
Judgment,
yeah, that,
yes.
yeah. And so I mean, I learned this in a big way just through this little example of what you taught me that sort of, and as we were discussing the idea of suffering, it's sort of, I can relax into the moment even if something is really horrible is going on in a way. I can just allow it to be. I can I don't have to fight against it. I may not like it, but I don't have to fight against it. I can be aware that I'm and just kind of breathe through it, and it shifts, it changes. It actually, I don't know if that's the energy changing it, but whatever it is,
It is. And
it's
the
powerful.
energy is always right there wanting to make that change with and through you. You're just dropping the resistance to its outworking in that sense. And that's how you take this process that we're always talking about and you take it on the go.
Yeah. Yeah. No, and I've been doing it in other ways, like throughout the week, like when something arises that feels a little bit uncomfortable, like in a meeting or somebody's kind of in a bad mood, I'm just like, I'm just going to breathe and relax here and not get attached to it and just allow it. And it's amazing how either I withdraw, I'm taken away, something else, or the person or the situation changes. So it's very powerful, and it is sort of this reminder that underlying everything, we are connected with this energy. It's not separate from us. It's kind of part of who we are. As we interact with it, it shifts and changes because we are that energy as well.
Yes.
And we bring our energy to that interaction.
And you don't need anyone else to understand that in order to receive the benefit of that
No,
process.
no, don't need. But I'm inspired to share those kinds of things, because they feel like it could be beneficial to other people to know that, to understand that. So um, yeah. But back to the you can go one way with service, you can go the other way with service from where you are. So the inspiration, as I just said, to share kind of is this feeling of um, it's kind of a funny feeling. It's like I want to connect with people. That's where it's coming from. This sense of um, feedback, or not approval so much as like exchange of energy or something. There's something there about that coming together around these ideas. Is there value in that, or is that I don't know.
So you're finding inspiration, finding the process of those being attracted to it?
Yeah. It's kind of like I've been talking in some small groups about some of the things that I've been learning with you, um, and there's just this kind of like, it's fun, it's exciting to get feedback and kind of talk about it, go back and forth about it, and um, people will share their stories, I'll share my stories, and it's just like very uplifting in a lot of ways. Yeah,
That answered your own question.
I answered
Is
that.
it of value?
Oh
You
yeah,
the feeling.
that's right. Duh, duh. Yeah,
That is how you know.
yeah. That's right. That's right. That's how I know it is of value. Yeah. Okay. Cool. Yeah. hmm So, uh, another thought that I wanted to kind of talk about is when you do get hung up on, things aren't going the way I want them to, or this isn't what I imagined I'd be doing now, or I think about my son who's 23 years old, and he came out of college and he had like he really inspired to take hemp like to into production and build homes with it, and so now he's selling cars because that industry, he had a job at kind of the company went out of business. He felt frustrated. I'm just using his as an example. I think he's going to be fine, but but we kind of get to those points in our lives sometimes where we have this vision and we believe in it, and then maybe it doesn't pan out, something else arises, but yet it's a big idea in your life. It's kind of like a big thing. um, at least the dream felt really big, and So maybe he's looking at the selling cars as an interim thing, and he's going to take from it what he'll take from it. And I'm sure he'll get to where he wants to go. But there's frustration and there's anger and there's, kind of resistance in all of that. Um, what is the purpose of those kinds of experiences where are sort of the that was my big dream and that's the direction I wanted to go in, and now I'm selling cars.
Oh, that thought that you just expressed right there
Yeah.
is the back and forth that will not allow it to come into expression of its purpose, as you stated. That back and forth is what many people sort of deaden themselves to
Oh,
in this sort of resignation, in the growing up, if you would, in many senses. And when you accept that whatever is right now is just a sort of platform into what is coming next. And every time you feel that frustration start to come on, instead of attaching or pushing against it, you let it just go and you reaffirm that to yourself. Then, when you're taking the actions and they're moving you in that direction. Now, there is no straight line to get from where you have been to where you think you should be,
yeah,
but there is a path that you're following. So
yeah,
as you're building, let us say, a hemp business, you're still making the money that allows you to invest in the business
right,
or whatever.
right,
And so when you see it as part of your process, when you see it as part of your
yeah,
unfolding, then it's put into proper perspective. The reason that it feels so awful when you're looking at your present circumstances and condemning them is because it's just not true.
yeah. It's not the way your inner being seeing it.
Not
Yeah,
at all.
yeah, not the way your inner being seeing it. Yeah. Okay. So, in any circumstance like that, so for instance, you get to be 80 years old and you can't live with your boyfriend anymore, and so you come to live with your daughter. Ha ha ha. And you feel like your life is kind of over or empty or boring. It's the same thing, isn't it? It's just looking at
It's
it.
very much the same thing. But you can't see what's really going on from that perspective.
Yeah.
If you see it as something that's going wrong, you're putting up all of this resistance that doesn't allow you to receive the broader understanding and the full fulfillment of what it is that you've been intending through this process. And so that is why this meditation, you experienced it so enjoyably. So, is because it allows you to step back and receive the putting into perspective. In other words, moving away from the boyfriend could be the best thing that has ever happened to her. But in her misery or resistance, you can't get to that next step, and life sort of drags you along sometimes. But if you have, as we spoke of at the beginning of this, if she has this image of how life is supposed to be and you see things not adhering to that, then there is even greater. And that's why we said at the very beginning of this, don't take this idea of how you think things are supposed to be and cling to it no matter what it takes, because that is a teaching that has been passed along for generation to generation that is very, very detrimental to your process. Now, when you can accept things as they are, even for the 15 minutes that it takes to listen to a meditation,
Mhm.
then all of the inspiration comes in and you start to have the realizations that put everything into perspective.
Yeah. Yeah. It is a beautiful process. Thank you, Joseph. Thank you so much. It was very clear. It was very clear. Clinging to those ideas of how things are supposed to be, um, you know, uh, it's almost like prying your fingers away sometimes, but it doesn't
Much.
have it doesn't have to be that way. It can be as easy as 15 minutes of breathing with a beautiful, meditation and kind of.
Because there are many aspects within that vision that are totally complementary to this expression of inner energy. But there are many aspects of it which are not. But if you're clinging to the idea and not making it about the energy, you can't tell which is which. It's all sort of this package that either makes you miserable or whatever. So
Right, right. You can't
when
tell
you
which.
release that for that even small period of time, you'll attract to yourself the best of it. We call it resolution. You'll attract to yourself the value of it. And those ideas will be drawn to you. And as they are, the attraction power gets stronger and stronger, and more ideas are drawn to it, and more ideas are drawn to it. So you have the best of all that, and you have it now infused and added unto and increased in power because of that attraction of the inner energy. And then you're taking action upon these ideas and being called forward and being called forward, and you get the best of all of it.
Yeah.
Now, it may not change overnight, but each day will be a progression in the direction of that dream.
Thank you. Thank you for that. There's also the idea that as we're sort of releasing that resistance and gaining momentum in the other direction, there's a sense of kind of walking into the unknown. And I think that a lot of people are kind of leery of not
Most are.
not
If you
knowing.
don't understand this process, if you don't understand how this creative process is, then you revert back to that fight or flight that may keep you safe, but
Mhm.
probably not spiritually fulfilled in that
Yeah,
sense.
yeah, yeah. So that, there's some basic scaffolding or basic, um, pieces to this process, the trust, the intention, the ability to connect with your inner energy. I mean, there are definitely kind well, for me at least, that's been my process, kind of walking through some of those pieces of learning to trust myself, learning to trust the energy, learning to, step back from the resistance that I'm aware of that I'm putting out there. Um, and and I know we've talked about this is a process that everyone can go through and everyone can have, but is it a does it have to be a conscious process? Like, is this journey a conscious journey?
To get into the further refinement of it, it really is a conscious participation with that inner energy. Now, you can be enjoying your life, you could be in a state of joy
Yeah.
and not really have any greater understanding. And in that place, in other words, if you fall in love, if you have a new town or a new friend or a new puppy or any of these things can inspire that energy within you, which then makes it so much easier for the new manifestations to come in. And some people were not exposed to the beliefs that hold it back, and so they're flowing freely and things are expressing easily for them. But there's no better or worse than all of this, because if you're not raised with any of those beliefs, then you may be sort of blipping along as you've stated, and things are nice and things are nice, but you don't have any of that deeper appreciation necessarily of the raw material. And so it is just about accepting you for who you are, not you as more allowing of the energy or you as less
Mhm.
allowing or trying to compare yourself with other people. It's just right here, right now, what is going on with your process.
Yeah. Yeah, I hear you. I hear that. I can accept that. I'm thinking in terms of working with people and teaching them something. Um, you know, and I struggle with that a little bit because there is a sense of being a teacher, of me being a teacher that I like because it allows me to impart my experiences, my knowing. Um, I guess it gives me kind of like a staff to hold on to or something. um, and maybe make it easier for others to, because of the way we've been trained, to then get involved in the process and move forward. But maybe that's just also a belief kind of that I could release, because people could just be attracted to the energy, period, and not the necessarily all the little steps that are outlined for them that make it easy. Either way, maybe.
It is all of the above in that sense. So you're as you're learning this, you're leaving breadcrumbs that you can share with others, and those who are coming in at, let's say, point A will not go straight to Z. They'll go through the entire process. And some people who are joining you, in other words, you get to Z, let's say, in this limited analogy, but you then others are coming in at M, and then they're able to see the process that you lay out, and so it's not about catering to them as much as it is seeing what is naturally coming forth from you and then putting that out there so that those who are attracted to that can find it, because
Okay.
you cannot be all things to all people, and so that's part of your process, and it's discovering what your relationship is with these people. It's discovering what your relationship is with your own work, and you figure this out here and there, but when you get into the receptive place and the energy is coming forward and it's saying, go here and talk to this person, or go to this venue and talk to all of these people, or do whatever that is, as you follow that process, you will gain your own understanding. And those who are ready for what you want to share will be moving forward, and those who are not just won't stick.
Yeah. 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 I think throwing it back to me, um, if I am excited and comfortable about the ideas that come forward, and if they come forward in some kind of a linear or, circular or spiral fashion, whatever it is that fits me, that feels good to me, then and I'm not trying to create something artificial, um, and that's what I'm comfortable with, and that's what I do. That's what I do. Yeah.
That's what is expressed through you.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah. Hmm.
It is a gift,
Good.
because
Yeah.
not everyone has learned the process to be able to connect clearly to that energy. So, because of what you have learned and are continuing to learn and master, you have that ability. So, you can share this information, you can share the energy that you're receiving with others who don't know how to get there.
Yeah. Yeah. Thank you. Thank you.
And so, what we really want to say to bring this all together for you is that yes, they will all attract their process. They will all attract what they're ready for. They will all attract the inspiration and the new information,
Hmm.
but you're part of that process for them.
Hmm.
So, in order to be part of that process, you have to put that energy out there so that they can attract it to them.
Yeah. Thank you. Yes.
In the same way, you don't have to build a house to move into it. You can trust that other people have followed their inspiration, followed their expertise, and followed their process, and you get to just accept that. The same is true with connecting to this energy.
Yeah.
Some people don't want to have all of these long talks with us and whatnot. They they just are ready for a little bit of information
Yeah.
or a lot of bit of information. It's not for you to figure it out for them. It's for you to put it out there. They'll attract it as part of their process. And if it doesn't come from you, it'll come from someone else. So why not you? Put it out there.
Yeah. I mean, I've gotten some wonderful feedback from people, and not that it's about the feedback, but it is exciting to have that connection with people.
Well, it is about the feedback in a sense, because you're offering that energy, you're connecting to it, and you're going to get the feedback. Now, you may get it in a written testimonial, or you may get it from a smile from a stranger on the street. You may get it
Yeah.
from the numbers in your bank account. The feedback is always going to come back to you. Now, of course, you're not basing it. You're not basing your state of being on the feedback, but you're accepting where the feedback is coming from. And it's coming from that connection to inner energy.
Yes. Yes, it is. It is. Okay, good. Good, because that feels good. It feels like a good part of it, just an enjoyable part of it. So, yeah. So, good. All right. Well, thank you. I don't have any other questions this evening, but that
Very
was
much so.
wonderful.
We
Wonderful.
have some questions for you, so you're putting yourself out there.
Yeah, I've been getting myself organized. I'm taking that same course that Aaron took, the wealthy marketing manager, whatever it is, marketing. And I've been talking in groups in small groups. I was attended one today with people, just sharing this energetic connection, like that perspective that I see through that connection with people, talking about it. That's kind of what I've been doing mostly, is and it's beautiful because it's almost like it's not me, it's it is me, but it's like perfect for the moment is all I can say. It's
It
just perfect.
is.
Yeah. And
Just
I'm
remember that when you're in that process to say, and if you want to learn more, you can.
that's my next step. That's my next step, is to say, if you would like to learn more. Yeah. Yeah, I am. You gave me a good kick in the pants last week. It really helped. Really, really helped me a lot. So thank you. I'm excited
Indeed.
about all of this. Yeah,
You
I've
see,
started to like clear space in my day, in my life, in my thoughts, in my mind for doing this.
it's the last step. Just taking that little bit of action tilts the scales.
Yeah. Yeah, I can feel it's like, yeah. So there's just this little bit of like, I want to finish this course. I want to understand a little bit more about the marketing and but so many ideas. And in fact, there's energy is building for me to get on YouTube. Like that is, I got that app that Aaron mentioned that will help to go live on YouTube. And I practiced that a little bit. So now, and I'm comfortable with doing it. So that's kind of where I'm going next with this, is just to start talking. I want to start talking about surrender. I want to start talking about, feeling the energy of our inner being, my inner being. I want to talk, like, there's a lot of like different topics that I just want to talk about. I used to want to write about them. Now I want to talk about them. So I think that's a little bit of a change.
So it is.
So it is. Thank you. Thank you,
Very much
Joseph.
so.
Thank you so much.
Very much so. It starts a cascade of energy, so just let the process continue.
Okay.
Anything else here?
No, that's all for this evening. Thank you.
We are complete. Hey.
Yay.
Hey.
Well, that was great. You
Awesome.
should be able to excerpt some of that stuff, especially about suffering. That was awesome.
Okay, cool.
Oh my gosh. That was really awesome. I mean, so much of the world believes that we have to suffer, that we all,
Yeah, we think it's like good for us or whatever, but
yeah. So, anyway, that was very cool. Thank you, Aaron. Thank you
you're
so much.
welcome. Thank you too.
Yeah. Let's see. I was going to say something. Now I forget what I was going to say.
Okay.
Um, I was going to say that I'll keep you posted on, I thought about this. Okay. So I wanted to do a video talking about how Joseph has really been my teacher, Aaron and Joseph, through this process of connecting to the inner energy. And so I actually kind of like in my mind have, felt myself doing that. And um, I just want to put it out there just for people on my channel, and just refer like to your website. Just say, if you want to learn the process that I learned, go to aaronandjoseph.com.
Yeah, that'd be awesome.
Okay, but then what I also wanted to do is like from there say that this has also led me to, a really greater understanding of who I am, and then like start talking about, kind of where I am and what I offer. Is that okay?
Totally. Yeah.
All right. All right. I'll let you know when I get that done.
I love it. Down the road, we could even think about doing a, well, let me pause the record.